Hello, welcome to 3D Drawing for Your Model Railway. The last lesson we worked around the bogie area and the coupling. I'm going to make a couple of changes to it. I've been looking at it and I think there's a couple of things I need to change and improve on, and then we're going to be looking at copying this all across to the rear end of the vehicle as well. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I was looking at and trying to work out was the actual coupling pocket coupling itself. I thought about this and realised that we've got it set too high, and if we have it in this position here, it'll just catch on the bottom of the buffers when it tries to go around corners. So I'm going to make some changes to that. So first thing I'm going to select is make sure the bogey's selected on the bottom here. If we just check this combine, if we come back one on the combine, and then is the coupling arm itself set? No, it's not. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the body. I'm going to select the bogie itself. I'm going to split on the rear of the coupling. Click on OK, and that should then give us two bodies here. Okay. Then I'm going to select the body 11 for me, which is the coupling itself. And I'm going to click on, and move copy. I'm just going to bring this down slightly so it's below the coupling, sorry, below the buffing. I'm going to go for minus 0.8, I think. And that should give us free movement there underneath there. Okay, and then I'm going to combine those two bodies again. And one thing I'm going to try and do is add a little bit of strength to this as well. So I'm going to look to see if we've got a plane that goes down the middle, the mid-plane. And I'm going to draw on that mid-plane, projecting on that line, and the coupling line, the coupling pocket itself. Then I'm just going to draw a rib. I'm going to go from the bottom of the coupler there. I'm going to come across and snap onto the diagonal part of the coupling arm here. Select that small bit in the middle, do extrude, and I'm going to do symmetrical. I'm just going to bring it 1 millimeter, tell that to join, and that should give us a little bit more strength in that arm itself there. It's not really a lot I can do on the rear end here, but it is protected by this part that comes underneath the front of the bogie itself. So that should give that a little bit more strength there, and hopefully be a little bit less prone to snapping. Although I haven't had a coupling snap on either the crane or the DTS yet, and that uses a similar design to this. It's just, I'm looking at bulking out a little bit, and you're not really going to see that too much, I wouldn't have thought. So I'm going to go with that, and I think that should give us what we're after there. Okay, so let's look at copying some of these things over. So now we're looking at really the chassis to start with. We need to cut out a hole for the bogie to sit in. Select the chassis radio button. I'm going to zoom all the way across to the end. And I'm going to start looking for the hole on the floor. So this one here. So I'm going to select to mirror. I'm going to do features. If I select these four, that will give us all of the things underneath that we require. And the mirror plane, we're going to want the mid-plane of the unit, which is this one here, plane 3. And that's copy everything to the other end. Now I did say that I think that these fuel canister holders here might become a bit of an issue. And one option potentially could be to attach these to the side of the bogie. The next thing I'm going to do is copy the bogie. So if we select the bogie there, so selecting the radio button, if we select the body, I'm going to do the same again, so do mirror. This time select the body, mirror plane, be that same plane 3. Might as well bring the wheels across as well, so if we select these two bodies as well, so they're going to copy across. Okay, we might have to, I'm going to check the photos, we might have to move this back slightly, I think this might sit a little bit further back. Actually, if we compare the position of this wheel here, so the wheel axle point is sort of roughly level with the middle of the door here. Compare it to this photo, we're looking at probably the same sort of position, so we're probably not too far off, actually. So I think I'm going to leave the bogey in its current location, just move it across that centre point. I think that looks reasonably okay to where we want it to be. As suspected, though, we can see from this we're going to have an issue with these two boxes clashing with the bogey, both longitudinally along the unit, but also really there's not a lot of room in between them to be able to swing the bogey left to right around the coupling, and also if you did that it would clash with this beam. So I think I am going to have to remove these. I'm going to add these onto the bogey. So what we're going to do to be able to achieve that is we select the chassis radio button again. So we're going to be working on that. I'm going to split the body. So select the main body to use. Let's just turn the bogey off so you can see what we're looking at there. And we're going to split on the base. We're going to have to go back and add a couple of things back on, because as you'll see it will create several bodies and can't even do it. Why won't it split off? It's probably because of these being there. So if we turn those off, we might then be able to split that. Nope, it could be to do with these. So lay down conveyors. I don't think there's anything else that's sitting. Possibly these. So the pickup conveyor. Try again. So split body. Select that chassis. Splitting tool. Use that face. Do it. Nope. Okay, let's go and use a plane there. We'll try using the plane to split. So split the body. Using a plane. There we go. We've got rid of it. Okay, so what we've got separated off. Zoom in. We can turn off that construction plane. We don't need that anymore. So the main body, parts of the buffers. So if we find these two, so we've got body 80, body 77, and all the rest of this lot's the buffers. So we can then turn that on, and we'll turn on. We want them two separate actually. Yep. So we're going to combine the main chassis, holding down Control while I select these four parts of the buffers, and join. Turn those two back on, which is the bolsters. We need them separate, we can print separate. And then we've got these two, which I'm going to select these. So selecting 77 and 80 for me. I'm going to move to group. I'm going to move those into the bogey. So I'm selecting the bogey part and then bodies. Click on OK, and that should move these two across into the bogey like this. Turn the bogey back on, they should become visible. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is spin that round all the way. That's what we're looking at, and I'm going to move these two. So I'm going to select them, holding down Shift. Select them like that. Move copy. I don't want the copy, I'm just going to move them down. Millimetre is probably too much. I'm going to go minus 0.5 mil. that should give us enough play underneath here, so they shouldn't be touching. If they do end up touching, I'll just file a little bit off the top. Click on OK. So we've moved down. Catch up. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create on the mid plane. Hide those 2 seconds. And we'll find the mid plane for the bogey. Or that's going to be the mid plane on the. If we actually use the mid plane of the main sketch we're doing. Okay, and we can do create sketch. No, we've still got chassis selected there. Let's cancel that. Go back to bogey. Scroll back up and then create sketch on that mid plane. And then we'll draw a rectangle. Check that on first. And then we'll draw a rectangle. And start at that position. And we'll come roughly level with where the part of the bogey comes down there. Let's go for 4.5 millimeters. So let's add a dimension in there of 3.2 millimeters and thickness 1.4. And then we can select all of these profiles and extrude. I'm going to do join symmetrical. Turn those 2 parts on. We can bring that out to the rear face, and that should, as I say, symmetrically do this on both sides, which would then enable those to be joined to the rest of the bogey. And click on OK. That should all then become one as the bogey's moved out of the way. So look, wheels. Scroll back out. Body 11 should be this bogey here. Yep. Body 16 being this bogey here. And I've got the bogey here, which I'm only going to get one of. It's the same item. So 2 different bogies. This one obviously having the fuel canisters here. Okay, so now we've got to this point, we've got 2 separate bogies. I think what I'm going to do is draw on the footsteps. Now the footsteps are different on both ends. Primarily they're on different sides of the bogey. So on the front they're on the leading edge, and on the rear they're on, again, what would be the same leading edge, which is, because we've mirrored them, be the trailing edge of the bogey. You'll also notice there's a different number of steps on both the front and the rear, and that's primarily to do with the thickness of the chassis here. But if you remember, we've made a compromise when producing the model that the chassis floor is the same thickness all the way along here, and it steps up on the top part but doesn't step back down to the correct thickness that would be here. So this part's a reasonable thickness and not going to warp too much. So we'll have to do slightly different than what the actual model is, and we'll do the number of steps that look correct. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm selected on the bogey, and I'm going to do a offset plane from the front face of the chassis. And I'm just trying to work out, do I want it to step out at all? No, I think I'm going to go with level with the front edge of the chassis there. And I'm going to draw on that. Wait for this PC to catch up here. So I'm going to create a sketch on that plane, but obviously it's going to be on the bogey. Okay, so it's going to be on this leading edge. If we look at the picture, we're going to have the rectangle part of the step comes down to where the bottom of the spring damper is and goes to the top of the bogey. So we're going to have a little bit of compromise in that as well. And the position of it would normally be, that door's going to be opening in the way here. Just, that picture. So it's going to be in this area here. So let's project on front of that chassis. I don't want it to touch the chassis though. I'm going to draw a rectangle and I'm going to place it, I would say about there positionally. I'm going to come down to the bottom edge of the springs there. So I'm going to give it a width of 3.6 and a height of 3.9. Let's dimension that point to this point on the chassis here, where the fillet of the end there starts. And I'm going to call that 3.8 millimeters, and the height to the same point. We won't do it. Let's go height something else. So we'll go height from that point to the chassis. That's what we'll go for. Okay, won't do that. Let's try again. There to there. Okay, we're at 0.5 millimeters on that. Okay, I'm going to extrude that back into the chassis. I'm going to tell that to be a join. And I'm going to actually do it at two sides. I'm going to come forwards half a millimeter as well. Let's have a look, see what that looks like. It will step out slightly, but that's fine. And that's just going to give us sort of a box area that we can draw on. Okay, so looking at the picture of the front, we've got two lower steps and a small cutout above it. We've got 3.9 in total. So we draw on the front face, draw a rectangle. I'm going to give a dimension from there to the base, 0.4. Do the same to the side, 0.4. Height wise, I'm going for 1.2, I think, and then we'll do the same. We'll draw another one a little bit higher, so again go 1.2 high, and we can vertically constrain that to that point, and that to that point, with a dimension between them of 0.4 again, and if we draw a similar box at the top, vertically constrain that point to that point, that point to that point, and a dimension between them same 0.4. That gives that little cutout that we've got at the top of this one as well. So we select those three profiles and then extrude them maybe 0.9, maybe just 1 millimeter. And cut. Okay, good. So what we're going to do then is mirror these across. So select features, we'll select that one and that one. Mirror plane is going to be that mid plane. Click on OK, we should have that both sides of the chassis there. Good. So looking at the rear one, it comes down a little bit lower. So we'll do the same thing. We can draw on the plane that we had. So scroll down, plane 4. And draw another rectangle. I'm going to be looking for some sort of position relative to the handrail coming down there. I'm going to come down to the bottom of the bogey here. So I'm going to go 3.8 wide and 4.25. there. 5mm, so that's from the top of the edge to the bottom of the chassis. And we're going to select that same curved point on the rear of the bogie there to put that fifth dimension in. And we'll go for 5.75 just to round that up. Select that profile, we're going to extrude. Let's just have a look to make sure that looks, yeah, it's covering over the axle box there, that's fine. So we're going to extrude two-sided. In by 1, out by half, and join. Yes, this one's slightly bigger. We may get one extra step on there. As I said though, it's what we could do there is make the step smaller. That's one option. Yeah, let's try that. Let's make that step a little bit smaller. So if we draw on that front face, let's see what we can get in here. So do a rectangle. That dimension. On the bottom again, there we need the same thickness. We could do midpoint that to that. And dimension edge 0.4. I think we had height on the last one of 1.2. If we go 1.1, it's a slightly smaller step, but we might get that extra one that we're looking for in there. So 1.1 is the height. Dimension, that gap again is 0.4, and we'll use the vertical constraint to get that point to that point, and that one to that one. I don't think we're going to get more than 3 in here, which we're not, so it's fine, we'll just go with what we can get. Vertical constrain those points again. And the height. Okay, now we'll do the same thing. We'll extrude those in by the 1mm. And then mirror that across. So selecting those features there. Mirror plane, that mid plane, click on OK. Okay, so we've got steps on both ends of the bogies. I think they look okay, and I'm going to leave it at this point here. So, hope you've enjoyed that episode. You've been able to copy along there. Thanks for watching.